In a world gone mad, only rationality and common sense can save it. It's Andrew and Jerry Save the World with your hosts, Andrew Langer and Jerry Rogers. And now, here's Andrew and Jerry.
Welcome to another episode of Andrew and Jerry Save the World, episode 71. Andrew and Jerry start the countdown to election 2024. I say in my best DJ voice, I'm Andrew Langer.
Jerry Rogers.
And we are recording this the day after the third GOP debate, Jerry. Like the third, right? Not the second.
It was the third, the showdown in Miami, the top five candidates.
Top five.
Although, of course, again, the 78-year-old former president, under indictment in numerous cities and jurisdictions and 91 counts, he was not there. So I don't know what the purpose is when the front runner doesn't participate. And I think the RNC, Ms. McDaniel,
Ronna Romney McDaniel,
needs to, or it's too late now, I guess, but
there should be a rule in the future that says he will not be supported on the ballot or given ballot access in the primary. This is what Jerry's saying. You will not be given ballot access in the primary.
It is absolutely ridiculous that Donald Trump wants to be the nominee, the GOP nominee, yet he has not turned up to a single debate. It is. I mean, again, how do you suss out the issues? How do you hold the candidates accountable? You know, how do you vet the candidates? It
is a decision that exposes the fatal flaw here. Donald Trump is doing what many candidates in the past would have liked to have done, but dared not do themselves. If they are the front runner, they figure, why should I bother debating this person? You know, it's beneath me, and it's not gonna end well for me. Of course, given Donald Trump's performances in the 2016 debates and the fact that he got the nomination, which, you know, stunned the hell out of both me and Jerry when it happened. There's no reason why he shouldn't be at these debates, except that it gives the press more time and he doesn't have enough ability to control the narrative. I texted Jerry. I thought the debate started at 9. It started at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so I missed a good chunk of the beginning of it. I texted Jerry to ask if he was watching and if I really needed to watch. And Jerry said, "Wait, what? Because did you watch? Did you watch any of it live?"
No, I don't watch it live on purpose.
Yes,
because I miss things, because it's happening in real time, and I end up just being emotional about it. You know, viscerally responding. So what I did was, after it was over, I went in Twitter, formerly Twitter, now X, was very good in terms of the clips. And so I really did, for about a half hour, 35, 40, 45 minutes, I just went through clips and to get a better sense. And then, of course, I read the analysis coming out of The Hill and the Politico and Vox and National Review and everywhere else. And I find that when I read the statements and when I see the clips, it works better for me than sitting there and hearing the audience applause, and it's just, you know, for me, it removes the nonsense, and I catch things now. I give you an example, Andrew, as I rant and I go on and on.
Yeah, you're fine.
So all my reading of the initial analysis was that Ramaswamy,
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah, did I say his name right? That's a hard name for Jerry. Are you there? What's the matter? Andrew, you have no sound.
I've got, of course, an Amazon guy right outside of my studio because, of course, I can go, 6 hours in the morning with having nothing happen at my house. And then all of a sudden you and I start recording and the Amazon guy shows up at my house. Sorry, Jerry, you were saying Ramaswamy.
You want to start again?
No.
All right.
Go right ahead. Ramaswamy. I broke your train of thought.
You did indeed.
Sorry about that. So here's the thing that I came back to. I turned it on as Ramaswamy was going on one of his rants and was bothered by it. Now, I will say, with the exception of Ramaswamy, this is not an endorsement of him. I like everything else in my life, whenever I touch a candidate, bad things happen. So I had given Ramaswamy some money, not much, about $50 a couple months ago, and then he went off the deep end. I say this, acknowledging that was a bad decision, and then I'm while I'm not saying that my $50 to Vivek Ramaswamy caused him to go off the deep end, I am saying that my $50 to Ramaswamy.
All right, so here's
but my point is that I found Ramaswamy was the only one with any energy on that stage. I found everybody else to be very tired, and I mean that not as a value judgment. They just sounded tired. They sounded tired of him. They sounded tired of the race. They sounded tired of Donald Trump. They just sounded tired about everything.
I think, again, my reading the initial analysis, I would have thought Ramaswamy did poorly, that he was unhinged, right? That was Politico's. But I watched his clips, and frankly, he was the only one who gave clear answers. He was the only.
I think on some things he gave clear answers to. On other things, he was very much out of his depths. I mean, on a lot of the foreign policy stuff, I don't think his answers were clear.
I 100% disagree. Some of them were wrong. So he was right on. Again, I don't have to agree with everything. I don't agree with Republicans, but it seems to be the mainstream thought now that Iraq was a waste of time, that Afghanistan was a waste of resources. I disagree with that. I think the Iraq war was necessary. I still support what we did there, and I honor the soldiers who served. The problem with Iraq and Afghanistan had to do with trying to impose democracy.
Right.
Democracy is not a good thing without property rights and minority rights and religious rights, etc., women's rights. And what the Bush administration and latter administrations tried to do was to impose democracy. It was a mistake. Going there was the right thing to do.
Especially within the context of 9/11 and the accusations levied against the Bush administration in the aftermath of 9/11, it was 100% the right thing to do.
So I don't necessarily agree with Ramaswamy on Iraq and Afghanistan, but he said something that no one else has mentioned in this whole debate about the Hamas war on Israel, and that is Israel's position ought to be that it will protect itself, not to rely upon American troops or American might. Yes, we should support our allies,
right?
But it is very dangerous for Israel to have to rely upon America or other allies, because then you have America and other allies dictating what Israel should do. And we see this nonsense from this president, Joe Biden, talking about a humanitarian pause or a ceasefire. That does nothing but help Hamas, help the terrorists.
But of course, the problem being that Israel is not the same size and scope of the United States. And so it being a much, that is essentially like asking New Jersey to defend itself.
No, I get it, but if I'm the Israelis, I don't want American troops in Israel.
No. But I don't think anybody's talking about putting American troops on the ground. I mean,
again, this is the problem, and this is how the hard left is trying to gain traction with Republicans and conservatives.
Right.
This is the argument. They're making this argument that this war in the Middle East will lead to troops on the ground. Will lead to World War III. And, conservatives, for the most part, yes, will defend our nation, but don't like war making for war making's sake. And the problem is that this argument that Israel is going to draw us into a world war is an argument that I think it's wrong. B, it just makes the case as to why Israel has to have the weapons and the technologies, even if we give it to them, to fight their own battles.
Well, no, I mean this gets into the same discussions you and I have had about Ukraine and about the role there, though it's a slightly different situation in terms of this. And you and I have talked here on these airwaves, and I know they're not airwaves. You and I have talked about the similarities between what is happening now in the Middle East and what has been happening in Central Europe and the beginnings of World War I, which is if you go back and you read the Guns of August, and you should have understand how little things happening, and not that the Hamas attacks are little things, but it's not these things that seemingly are disparate and a disconnect can draw folks closer to war. Here is my problem. All right. And my problem with Vivek Ramaswamy. Besides the fact that he came off, I felt as unhinged in many
circumstances. Can I just comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
Because I think if I watched it live, I would have had the same reaction you're having now, that he was unhinged. That was what the take was. That was the hot take. However, going back and watching his responses and his answers separate from, after a day of thinking through and reading about what happened, I no longer think he was unhinged. No, I think what was unhinged? Give me an example.
So I think.
And by the way, I'm not a supporter of his.
No. I get this. I think his hectoring of Nikki Haley was unhinged.
There was no hectoring. In fact, she hectored him.
She hectored him. Jerry, she called him. Oh my goodness. Maybe this is the whole thing about watching. She called him a scum. What?
She called
him scum because he was talking about her daughter and talking about her parenting skills.
And he was right to do so. He was. I'm sorry. You cannot. You cannot talk about social media and TikTok and criticize, what Nikki Haley did. Criticize Ramaswamy for going on TikTok to campaign. And then not open yourself up to, well, your daughter's on TikTok.
I disagree wholeheartely. I think it would be one thing if Nikki Haley were criticizing him and she were on TikTok, that would be a problem. It gets it like it. Not that I want to bring in a whole nother aspect of it, but it's like Ron DeSantis. It's like the debate between Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley over doing business with China. Right, you've got Nikki Haley talking about Ron DeSantis and this business council in Florida welcoming China, and you've got Ron DeSantis bringing up that Nikki Haley was welcoming China 10 years ago. It's like this. Well, those are at least more similar circumstances, if a decade apart. The hypocrisy would lie in if Nikki Haley were on TikTok. And not,
I don't agree. I think that the issue isn't grown-ups on TikTok, campaigns, or even businesses using TikTok for advertising. The problem with TikTok and social media is the foreign influence it's having on our young people.
Well, that's part of no, Jerry. That is certainly a part of it, but it's also it is the influence that TikTok is having on adults and what goes through the adults' algorithms. And it's about the vulnerability of data.
But adults can make adult decisions. Children cannot. I think it's look, when you want to be a deacon or an elder in a church, all churches, at least traditional Orthodox churches, the requirement is your family has to be in order. You cannot serve the church if your family's in disorder or dysfunction. Wondering and knowing these candidates' families, if their families are out of order, I think that is a campaign topic.
That sets up an absolutely impossible standard for anybody that we want to be in political leadership to meet. If everything in their family life has to be absolutely pristine.
No, I'd see. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not saying pristine. I'm thinking that, look, we talked about this, but there are members of Congress and elected officials who have had their wives and children commit suicide.
Yes,
I think that's a check. I think that if there's mental health issues in your home and you're spending 100% of your time elsewhere, then there's a real. I'm sorry, these families. I think people were right to question Donald Trump's affairs and his and his divorces. Of course, that matters. That is. But
there is a vast difference between essentially saying that someone is a deficient parent because they're letting their kid on TikTok.
No, but again, you're putting me in a position where
trying not to put words in your mouth here.
But I don't want to defend Ramaswamy.
No, I understand. My point was one. But my point, anyway, because we got on this.
I'll bottom line.
The reason why Nikki Haley called Ramaswamy scum is because he went after her daughter. That's why.
Okay, and
maybe she needs a thicker skin. And I say, hold on. And I say this as someone who also then found her campaign's tweet about her heels and ammunition, because Ramaswamy at one point called her Dick Cheney in 5-inch heels, and her team tweeted back, "My heels aren't." Oh, I don't remember what it was. My heels aren't X. their ammunition. I don't
like Ramaswamy's
and
those kind of personal digs. I get that. Look, this guy rose
fundamentally
up.
the guy's wrong about the guy's wrong about Ukraine, but go ahead. That's,
Again, I'm starting to reconsider Ukraine, because here's what's going to happen in Ukraine. There will be a peace treaty where Russia keeps about 30% of Ukraine. That's it. That's what's going to happen.
I don't know. I don't think it's 30. I don't think it's 30%. I think it's possible that it could be the Donbass region and regions there. But I think Ramaswamy doesn't know what he's talking about when he says that it belongs to Russia because the people there speak predominantly Russian.
No,
that's neither here nor there. I mean, that's like
that's
saying
insane. That's just
people.
Dumb.
Yes, and
that's
it's
dumb.
That's
just dumb. But
yeah.
Again, I think this. I think that I'm disappointed with the whole lot of them. I don't know why Tim Scott disappeared from much of the debate. I don't understand.
So what do you say that? But time out for a second. Isn't it weird? You say that, but he actually, if you go look at the clock, he spoke more than anyone else.
Well,
I mean, they all spoke roughly the same. They all spoke between 16 and 18 minutes.
But he had this non-presence. I mean, that makes my point for me. If he spoke equal or more, but obviously what he was saying, I listened to three of his his bits from the debates, and I fast forward all three. It's like,
well, and you're a Tim Scott fan. You like?
I love Tim Scott. Yeah. I'd vote for Tim Scott.
See, that's the thing. It's like, for me, I'm sitting here going, okay, Chris Christie is making sense, and I'm not a Chris Christie fan.
Yeah, you know what? I see. This is interesting because, again, Chris Christie got poor grades immediately after, and I disagree. I think Chris Christie was pretty good last night.
He was.
Look. Here's the bottom line for me. I think Haley was pretty good. The scum comment just completely turned me off.
I will agree with that. I was just justifying. I understand.
And I don't like phony tough guys or phony tough girls. Yes. Keep my daughter's name out of your mouth. That's just a really
weird sort of Will Smith way of saying it.
I know. It was cringy.
Her cadence was weird. I mean, and I'm noticing this. I thought DeSantis was a great big bowl to find. I think he did better in this.
He was a great big. That's perfect.
Yes.
He was in fact, that was the initial analysis, that he was a great big bowl of fine. Yes. And then when I watched it, he was a great big bowl of fine.
Yeah.
But see, he has to be better than that. I've seen DeSantis completely disarm and destroy politically these media personalities and reporters when they say the wrong thing. He'll say, wait a minute now. And then where is that Ron DeSantis?
That I don't know. And that's why I'm saying they all seem tired. And I got to tell you something. The one thing that gave me pause, because I do like Nikki Haley very much.
I like her too.
Hold on. And then all of a sudden on Twitter, she gets an endorsement from Michael Steele. And I'm thinking, well, there you go.
Well, whatever. You can't help who endorses you.
I know. But it's like, okay, now I need to rethink all of this stuff. So
Michael Steele might be realizing that eventually, the anti-MAGA, the MAGA is the enemy crowd is going to come for him eventually too. Right. This is the funny thing about MAGA.
Absolutely true. Something.
Everyone who is a progressive Democrat, MAGA is anyone they want to destroy.
Yeah. By the way,
that could be Michael Steele.
It started with MAGA. It then went to ultra MAGA in this election.
Yeah.
Extreme MAGA. It's going to be super ultra MAGA. Then it's going to be super ultra MAGA with cheese. And then super ultra MAGA with cheese, bacon, and special sauce on it. I mean, it's really
here's the thing about MAGA, and I want to talk about this a little bit, but I want to end
because we also want to talk about the election. Yeah,
right. Yeah. But the MAGA issue, it has become unsettling because it is an othering. It is an attempt to dehumanize political opponents, and I think any politician who uses the term as a pejorative should be called out immediately. Because what are you saying?
But it's interesting you say that, because you remember that setting aside anything else, The pejorative being used between 2009 and 2013 was teabagger, which I had a real problem with.
Well, because it was filthy, well, and it was a way to, again, to other and dehumanize.
Well, it's filthy and it's dehumanizing. Frankly, it's homophobic. I would say it's problematic. In fact, wouldn't it be fun if somebody in one of our conservative organizations went back through the tweets and sayings of folks who were all the lefties were calling righties teabaggers and called them out for their problematic anti-LGBTQIA behavior. But my point is in this, and this is actually really this is a good discussion to have, Jerry. It is brilliant, and I don't mean that in an admiring way, because it gets into the election. Maybe this is a good way to talk about Tuesday's elections in America and what happened and why certain Republicans won and certain Republicans lost. You and I talked a little bit about this.
Well, most Republicans lost.
Not most, but many. Well, no, you're right. I mean, a majority of Republicans up for office lost.
The Democrats ran the table, except Mississippi
and a couple of seats where I live, which is important. But my point in and of it is that the term MAGA is a brilliant term on the part of the left. It is simple. It is powerful. It paints an immediate broad brush, and it is next to impossible. It is the catch-all for Nazi, racist, homophobic, Islamophobic. Now they don't have to call you those things. Now they just call you MAGA, and that's the shortcut to thinking. And the Republicans have not found a way. Republican candidates have not found a way to inoculate against that.
And the scary thing is that it allows for no debate on the issues.
Right.
Look, let's just put a pin or a period after the GOP debate conversation. I'll say this. Donald Trump was the big winner, and he won by not showing up.
Right.
I think that if you're a Republican primary voter, Trump not being present should be a problem.
I agree.
He should be articulating where he wants to take the nation. He should be preparing. He's going to have to face a hostile media, a hostile political discussion. He should be practicing and working at it.
Let's
talk
about this for a second.
He has a Sarah Palin problem. Sarah Palin, when she was first chosen by McCain, everyone I know, moderates, conservatives, loved it. Here was a woman, here was Alaska, and they loved it.
Right.
And she was, at first, she really was a boost to that ticket. But then she refused to do her homework.
Yes.
She refused to wrap her mind around the issues. Donald Trump was president for 4 years. He's out of the White House for 3 years. He's done nothing to wrap his mind around the issues.
That's the thing, Jerry. It is, you and I both know. And this is the problem with him and him as a candidate going into 2020 or 2024. The election is not going to be about the issues. It's not. For Joe Biden, it's going to be, or whoever the Democratic nominee is, and we can talk about our theories there. But whoever the Democratic nominee is, the election is going to be about Donald Trump and beating up about Donald Trump and how evil and horrible Donald Trump is. It's not going to be about the economy. It's not going to be about what's happening on the world stage. It's going to be about how Donald Trump is corrupt, how he's been indicted, how he, has engaged in locker room talk. It's going to be about all of these things. The multiple indictments. It'll be about election denialism. It'll be about January 6th. For Donald Trump, the election is also going to be about Donald Trump. And it's going to be about revenge for 2020. And it's going to be about revenge for 2022. And it's going to be about revenge for all of the indictments against him. It is going to be Donald Trump wreaking vengeance on all of the naysayers. And so Donald Trump doesn't have to bone up on the issues. Because it's not going to be about the issues.
What you just said is the absolute perfect analysis of the 2024.
Thank you. Election. All right, everybody. We'll see you later.
No, really, that's a mic drop moment right there, because you perfectly, in less than in 90 seconds gave the truth there. But here's the problem: if he wins, he still has to govern, though.
Right.
And I don't trust him on Israel. I don't trust him on the abortion issue or the tax issue.
Right.
I don't trust Donald Trump on any issue right now.
And let me, by the way, say this. I want to be really clear. This is not me, and you have to say it in 2023. This is not me endorsing that approach to the.
Of course, no. Listen.
I'm just telling everybody else. I know you know this, Jerry, but I want to make sure to any of the casual listeners.
Let me just show our listeners how, even though you're projecting into the future, how we can know it's true today, because the Virginia state elections,
House of Delegates and the state Senate, yes,
were completely about Donald Trump,
100%
for the Democrats,
and abortion.
Well, but even there, yes, you're right, and abortion, but
I'll get out. But it was to talk about this for a second.
But it was MAGA,
100%.
And the Republicans, to their credit, but to their tone deaf in terms of politics, they did try to run an issues campaign. Yeah. Remember 2 years ago,
right,
Youngkin ran an issues campaign and won.
Right.
And they tried to duplicate that, but it didn't work. Because the Democrats were brilliant when it came to MAGA.
Let me give everybody an example of this. So one of the bright spots on Tuesday in Virginia was the race between the York County, Virginia Sheriff, Republican Danny Diggs, against Monty Mason, a multi-term incumbent both in the House of Delegates and in the state Senate. Someone who was poised to take several leadership roles in the Virginia Democratic Party had he been reelected to office. The ads that Danny Diggs ran were about Monty Mason's record on taxes and the economy and about schools and about the issues that matter, the kitchen table issues that matter to parents. Monty Mason's ads against Danny Diggs were, he's a white supremacist, he's tied to Donald Trump. In fact, Monty Mason had to pull one of his ads because he made accusations that were out and out false. But they were about Donald Trump and MAGA and white supremacists and abortion. That Danny Diggs wants to outlaw abortion. He wants to criminalize abortion. He wants to put doctors and women who have abortion in jail. That's what the ads were. And those are the same ads, by the way, that were run against other Republican candidates, which much greater success. And so I watched this now as it happened, and as Jerry I think would point out, if I didn't jump the gun on him. No, actually, I was going to say, for the most part, if you were a conservative Republican running in a conservative Republican district, these ads didn't destroy you.
Right. There's a really good analysis over at Real Clear Politics.
Yeah, the Mason Diggs race is, again, the exception that proves the rule, because this was a nominal D district. And Mason was able to eke it out. Anyway, and some of it has to do with redistricting. The same thing with the House of Delegates race here, in which they tried to do the same thing to a woman named Amanda Batten. But the real issue there was the candidate that the Democrats had nominated, Jessica Anderson, was a nut bar. I know at least one Democrat voter who told me specifically, I'm a liberal Democrat, but I absolutely cannot vote for Jessica Anderson because she's.
But again, that is the exception that proves the rule, because
I agree. 100%.
The whole MAGA focus is really telling Democrats, even if you don't like our person, go vote for him or her anyway, because the opponent is Hitler. It's Trump. It's MAGA. But let me just say this real quick.
Yes, because I want to talk about how Republicans inoculate themselves, because now that we understand the problem. But go ahead.
But if you look at the analysis of Virginia, right? Districts where Trump won, Republicans won, and won with greater percentages, better numbers than when Trump ran.
Sure.
So Republicans in Trump districts actually ran better than Trump.
Yes.
What Republicans had to do to keep the majority in the House of Delegates in Virginia was they had to win the districts where Biden won and Youngkin won.
Yes.
And if you look in there, that's where they fell short. Right. But they just fell short. And here's my analysis. Here's my analysis of
which is important. Yes.
Right. Here's my analysis of Virginia. Virginia is a bluish, purplish state. It's leaning, trending Democrat. What happened is what everyone should have expected to happen.
Right.
here's my hot take on Virginia.
All right,
but also,
I think yours is the same
but also
mine.
on some other races in Jersey and Ohio and Kentucky and Mississippi, and that is Democrats did exactly what they had to do in their bastions of power. They won where they're supposed to win.
Right.
And the fact that we're celebrating, or Democrats are just really spiking the ball on this,
is the point,
tells me how concerning 2024 should be for them.
Yes.
Because they won where they should win, and they're acting like they won the Super Bowl.
And this is what gets me about Virginia and the narrative that it was somehow some sweep. I mean, you use the phrase ran the table. I might even, I mean, they won.
Well, when I say run the table is that they were supposed to win in Virginia and they did. They were supposed to win in Kentucky and they did. They were supposed to win in New Jersey and they did. But they were supposed to win in Ohio, the Proposition 1, the abortion issue, and they did. Everywhere where Democrats were supposed to win, they won. So
then this is my point. And if you look at the numbers, this is, I guess, where I thought you were going with the hot take, and you may have almost gotten there and just forgotten to get there, which is that the Republicans performed, it was much closer than the Democrats are willing to admit. I guess that's the point here.
In Virginia, yes, absolutely. And again, I think, so I wouldn't, if I'm a Democrat, I'm not reading too much into the elections in Virginia.
Yes,
but let's move on. But I can't read too much. They won where they're supposed to win,
right? And except for right. And this is the thing that I told somebody earlier this week when the horrific polling numbers against Joe Biden came up, earlier this week. Oh my God, Joe Biden is cratering, blah, 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 blah. Yes, but, and this is why we're doing a show about the election just about a year away from the election happening. It'll be a year from now this week. That those polling numbers are only as good as the candidates and the messaging that's out there.
Yeah, exactly right.
But that being said, the Republicans, when they are able to run and they run strong, they do better than they're supposed to.
And also remember this too.
Danny Diggs winning in a nominal D district, that should be concerning to people.
Look here. Let's stick on Virginia and then move on. Virginia, Democrats performed as they should have. Republicans did, I think, better than I would have expected. I would have liked to see them keep the House of Delegates. They would have had the Republicans to take the Senate would have had to flip Biden districts that were just looking at it were not possible. But regardless, here's the thing. Maybe Republicans keep the House of Delegates in Virginia if they spent the money. Right. See, this is the problem too. In Ohio, in Virginia, in New Jersey, in Kentucky, the dollars the Democrats outspent the Republicans by millions and millions. I mean, it wasn't even competitive.
It was a constant din. And we still have cable. I watch, frankly, one of the only reasons why I keep cable now is because I like getting my antenna TV and my Me TV and watching all my old TV at night.
Yeah.
But most of the stuff that we're consuming is online on streaming services. And when there are ads, it was a constant din of anti-Republican anti-MAGA ads against Danny Diggs.
So Republicans, how can a Republican win a district where it's Biden plus 10, but Youngkin plus 3?
Yeah,
and there's no money being spent.
Right.
See, and this is another reason why Ronna
Romney McDaniel
has to go.
Never mind. I was going to throw you under the bus about
you can't throw me under the bus. But here's the thing. I was reading about her earlier today, and I've never learned her name.
Yes,
even though she's been the chairperson now for how long? The RNC chairperson.
I think it's 6 years.
All right. The reason why I've never learned her name is because I keep on thinking she has to go.
Yes.
Like, don't even bother knowing who she is. Look, 2018, GOP lost.
Yes.
2020, GOP lost. The special elections, the special elections after 2020, the Republicans lost. 2021, there was some Republican good news up in New Jersey where a nobody GOP took out the state Senate president,
right?
Democrat. But outside of that, there was no good news for the GOP. In 2022, the red wave that didn't happen, Republicans lost. In 2023, Republicans lost again. Why do we have this woman as the GOP or the RNC chairperson?
Let me crystallize it in a slightly different direction, right? Which is, and it raises the issue that I wanted to talk about earlier. We know that the central issue here is trying to figure out a way to inoculate these candidates against the charges of being MAGA. The MAGA
and money would help do that.
Well, money would help do that, but also if you can't figure out, if you are the chairman of the Republican Party, the Republican National Committee, and you have not figured out, you are not capable of figuring it out. And I don't know Ronna Romney McDaniel personally. I don't think I've ever met her, but if you are incapable of figuring out a way, or incapable of bringing together a group of people who can figure out a way to inoculate your candidates against this, then you should get out, because that is where the battle is. The battle is figuring out how to defeat this issue, right? If this were a war.
But listen, the way to do this, though, the way to deal with the MAGA issue is to push back constantly and use
yes, but Jerry,
use the progressives.
If we're explaining, we're losing.
All right, but let me no. Every time a Democrat progressive media person, whoever the progressive is, uses the term MAGA as an attack, you just flip it on them and say, there you go again. There you go again, othering your opponents.
Right.
There you go again with your hate speech, and then move on. And then what we ought to do is, and again, to do that, imagine if
I'm not so sure that works, but okay.
Well, then if you're not going to, I mean, what else you do?
Well, no, I mean, Jerry, listen, it's a good idea. I mean, this is me and Jerry spitballing here about this. I mean, you're right. The problem then becomes, I don't want this to become me sort of picking apart what you're saying, because I think there is merit in it. But the problem then becomes, the media turns around, or a moderator turns around and says, well, are you a MAGA person? How do you feel about Donald Trump? How come you didn't denounce Donald Trump here and there and everywhere?
Ask me that. I'm a candidate. Ask me that question. Go.
Well, no. Okay. So you say to me, I'm a MAGA candidate. All right. So, Jerry, do you distance yourself from the MAGA label?
Make America great again? No, I think both parties should embrace that label, because all Americans want to make America great. Number one. Number two, Donald Trump post 2020 has made some serious mistakes, but his first 3 years in office, on taxes, on regulations, on foreign policy, on China, he was hitting it out of the ballpark. Whether you were a Republican or a Democrat, you benefited from a Trump presidency. So no, I embrace things that work. I reject things that don't work.
But isn't making America great again, isn't that bringing us back to a time when America was rife with racism and sexism and homophobia? Isn't it really taking us back to this era where racism is institutionalized?
So when the Democrats held power, when Democrats instituted Jim Crow laws in the South, when Democrats blocked civil rights,
when Republicans and the Nixons adopted the Southern strategy. I mean, here's the thing. This is my point.
Stop. No, I agree with you. I would correct. I would say, you know what? The bad old days were days when the Democrats had control. The better days are days when Republicans lifted all people up. A rising tide lifts all boats. And in terms of the Southern strategy, again, fact check yourself. The fact of the matter is that the Southern strategy wasn't racist.
Here is my point, Jerry. My point in going through that is that if it were a Democrat being asked a question and being asked to explain, the moderator, whoever the journalist, would move on already.
Right? I wouldn't let him.
I
wouldn't let him.
But because you're a Republican or a conservative, all of a sudden you're going down this road of having to talk about the history of these
I
things.
would go
what
down
are we not
that,
talking about?
But
we're not. Yes,
but I'd go down that road. See, this
Jerry, Jerry, how can you, as a good Christian man, defend such an amoral, immoral person like Donald Trump?
Well, I've endorsed Ron DeSantis.
Yes. But yet, Jerry, you're not. You've endorsed Ron DeSantis, but you haven't said that Donald Trump shouldn't be president. Jerry, if Donald Trump is the nominee, would you vote? Anyway, this is my point.
Yes, of course I'll vote for him, because the alternative is Joe Biden, Bidenomics, inflation, surrender in Afghanistan, corruption with foreign governments. My goodness, yes, I'd vote for the Trump over the Biden organized crime family.
And seen. What the little telenovela that Jerry and I have just done.
No, but my point is
no. This is important. I'm going to agree with you here, Jerry.
The other side does this. The other side, my point they bite on an issue and they stick with it. We don't do that.
And I both had a conversation with a friend of the show yesterday who said, and rightly so, that if Republicans want to win, they have to essentially, I'm going to use the phrase, pardon me, Geraldine, shit or get off the pot. They have to be aggressive in their defense of our principles and who we are as a party. Right? I mean, that's what we're saying here. And you're looking.
I think that
Jerry thought I was going to go on a much longer rant there.
I think it's no longer, because of the ubiquitous nature of social media, of podcasting, of radio. Look, this week alone, I will have written 3 or 4 op-eds. I'm editing 2 major sites. I'm doing 1-2 podcasts. I'm doing a radio show. My point is that I have lots of time to give my explanation on the issues. This idea that if we're explaining, we're losing, I don't think. I think that's 1980s. Yeah. I think when you had limited time, when there was limited networks, when there was limited venues. Today, I could write a piece for the Federalist, The Hill. I can go to Real Clear Politics and Policy. I can go on a podcast. I can do a radio show.
The issue is
I don't have to make my point in 30 seconds.
Well, okay, yes and no, right? Some of it has to be distilled down to the sound bites that can be then packaged for things like Twitter.
All right. So then embrace it. Making America great is something all Americans should support. Next question.
So
I'm sorry. You oppose making America great? You oppose making the economy great? You oppose making
Jerry, great for whom? Great for
all
the
Americans.
Wealthiest. Great. I mean, when we talk about,
I agree with you.
Republicans want to do is they want to make the rich get richer while the poor get poorer. They want to increase the income inequality gap.
And you're smirking as you say it because you know it's not true. The fact of the matter is,
yes, Jerry, of course. I'm just
no. I would say this. If you no.
Seriously,
no, Andrew, you're missing. We're role playing. If you were the Democrat saying that to me, I would say to you, you're smirking because you know it's not true. You know that your party is the party of big tech, big labor, big business. My party, the Republican Party, is the working class party. In fact, nowadays, it really isn't right versus left. It's working class versus the elite class. And if COVID didn't teach us anything, it taught us that Democrats care more about the big box stores than they do the mom and pop shops. And so if Make America Great means that the little hardware store can make it, that the restaurant stays open, that dad and mom don't have to work 2 or 3 jobs, then I'm sorry. So you should be ashamed of you should be ashamed of yourself for mocking MAGA. Because you know who MAGA is? MAGA is the small business owner. MAGA is the man shoveling his church at 4 a.m. before service. MAGA is the guy packing Christmas boxes or helping in the soup line. Jerry, that's MAGA.
Within 2 minutes, just like you were kind enough to say that I had distilled down the what was going to happen in the election. That's the ad that the GOP
and no one does it.
And no one does it.
No one does
it.
What they ought to do is, this is what I thought about today prior to our podcast, and that is, you know how the triangle, which was a symbol of the pink triangle, it was a symbol of shame in World War II. It was a symbol,
Right.
again, lesbian, homosexual Germans and those in Eastern Europe were part of the Holocaust, the murder, and they had to wear a symbol. They had to wear and what they did was they embraced it and they owned it.
Right.
What Republicans need to do is embrace the idea of America being great is a good thing for all Americans, and we should stop this nonsense of othering and dehumanizing. Here's
Jerry,
the fact.
When are you and I going to write the op-ed? Let's write an op-ed on this.
But it's true. I mean, again,
I'm being serious about this.
Stop running from the problem. Isn't MAGA. The problem isn't make America great. The problem, unfortunately, right now is Donald Trump. He's the problem.
Well, yeah. Well, yes. Except insofar as he is the embodiment of MAGA.
But he's not. And this is what bothers me. I think Donald Trump fell into something. I agree
with you there.
Right. Well, he fell into this idea of putting America first, of putting America's economy first.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
He fell into it. He's an accidental beneficiary of his own political philosophy. He didn't invent it. In fact, this idea of populism, I'm sorry, a lot of the so-called MAGA movement really is kind of the working class movement that Reagan brought to the party. Sure. Think about this. Think about it was 1968, 69, the late 60s. Reagan's the governor of California, and there are these protests. Like what's passed as president, what's passed as prologue. There are these protests at the California state universities, and Reagan brings in all the university leaders and says to them, "Shame on you."
Yes,
because these, because he's distilling kind of working class values of we teach young people don't teach us.
Right.
This is make America great. The idea of working class, the idea of small mom and pop businesses. There's a reason why Democrats and the media go after small businesses. There's a reason why government policy was, and this is Trump's great failure. He kept businesses closed during COVID. So I don't know. I think if I ran, I win because I wouldn't let them get away with it.
Well, I mean, but that's the thing is there has to be this decoupling of MAGA, and so from Donald Trump, and unfortunately, the left has, and it's not rocket science to figure out how they did that because he was the one who ran on this. The question can be, is there MAGA past Donald Trump? That's and actually that should probably be our last question of the day, Jerry, because you and I can talk about MAGA and making America great again. But for a huge swatch of the Republican voter, or we can debate whether or not they're Republican voters. And I don't mean to be sort of equivocating on this. My point is, for obviously the Democrats have said that MAGA is synonymous with Donald Trump, but there is a certain percentage of the voters out there who are MAGA who will not vote for anybody other than Donald Trump. Right? Let's assume for a moment.
We haven't said that yet. Part of the problem from Tuesday's elections, the 2023 off elections, is that even though Republicans ran well in Virginia in Trump districts, the MAGA vote stayed home in Jersey. It looks like the MAGA vote stayed home in Kentucky. It looks like Ohio. Who knows what happened in Ohio? We haven't talked about abortion also.
Yeah.
And one thing about abortion is the Republicans don't know how to talk about the issue.
Right.
Well, and but this is just like they don't know how to talk about MAGA. They don't know how to talk about abortion. And part of the issue is, the problem is that they are constantly on their heels and allowing the media or their political opponents
to define.
Right. And again, in the state of Maryland, abortion is legal in this country from the moment of conception to the moment of birth. Yeah. In fact, there is a piece of legislation in Annapolis, the legislature, to allow for essentially fourth trimester abortion, which means if a child is born alive during an abortion, a doctor can essentially kill it.
Yeah.
And this is grotesque.
Yeah, it is legitimate.
But the problem with Republicans is that 70 to 80% of Americans believe that abortion post the first trimester, there should be restrictions.
Yes.
It's a winning issue. It's what Gingrich would call a no-lose issue, and Republicans are losing it.
Except
70 to 80% of Americans agree with the Republican idea that abortion should be rare.
Right, right. Except what happens is, and this gets into how you fracture the electorate, and you or not fractionalize the electorate, where small fractions of the electorate control the vote and come out in certain ways. So you make a lot of noise about extremism and about extremist abortion policies, and that gets people spun up who might not otherwise come out to vote. Again, the suburban.
Sure. When the president of the United States says that Republicans want to make miscarriages a criminal offense, which he said.
Yeah.
Again, but this is never going to happen. But this is when you need the fourth estate to do its job.
Right.
It is a ridiculous science fiction lie that any piece of legislation from any Republican anywhere in the U.S. would make miscarriages a criminal offense.
Right.
It's just but yet Democrats say it.
Right.
Democrats, yeah.
But the point in the end is that they're speaking to these small groups of voters here, and I'm genuinely shocked, right, that the pro-life groups are not better at both messaging and motivating their voters to come out on this issue.
Well, here's the problem with the pro-life movement. I'll tell you what it is real quick, because I'm part of it.
Yeah,
I am unequivocally, without exception, pro-life. I do not think a woman raped should have an abortion. I think that violence as an answer to violence doesn't work, and there's lots of data showing that women who have been abused or molested and have an abortion have post-traumatic disorder because of the abortion, not just the abuse. I don't think violence solves violence. I think abortion is horrific. It's baby killing from conception all the way through. That being said, I think anything that makes abortion rare, that limits and protects women, limits abortion and protects women, I think is a good thing.
Right.
So here's the irony in this. So let's say I'm a pro-life Republican, and I say, you know what? In the state of Maryland, we should have abortion legal in the first trimester, and thereafter there should be restrictions, always with exceptions for rape and incest.
Yeah,
that would win 80%. But the problem is, you know what the Democrats would say? You're a hypocrite.
Yes. Well, I mean,
but see, so it's not it's not the question of abortion that they need to answer. It's how do you answer the hypocrisy question?
It's also down the road, anyway, there are many ways that the left can lie about someone's record when it comes to
Republicans should rally around the idea of restrictions on abortion post first trimester with exceptions.
Right.
That should, and then what you do is, and this is what needs to be done. Then the pro-life movement needs to start doing it again, educating the American people on what an abortion is.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, save as many babies as possible.
Yes.
And during the Holocaust, if there was an option to save some Jewish people, but not all Jewish people, wouldn't you try to save some Jewish people?
I would try to say personally, I would try to save all, but that's
you're missing the point. So
I understand.
So you're behind enemy lines, and you got 5 guys with you, right? And you come upon a concentration camp, and there's an opportunity to save. Look, there's 18 workers outside the gates. We can save them and bring them with us, but we can't overtake the camp. I'm saying go get the 18. Just because you can't attack the camp doesn't mean you don't save the 18.
Right. No, I get that, Jerry. I mean, again, these are sort of, it's where it's all, there are many roads to utopia, all must
right. But that's the thing. The thing is that, all right, let's say those 5 American soldiers decided to attack the camp. All 5 die and all Jews
everybody
die.
dies. I get it. Yes. Again,
So Republicans need to be comfortable talking about, let's save as many babies as possible. We can't save them all right now because, unfortunately, we live in a culture where the ethic of life isn't valued. So let's save as many babies as possible. Yes. Once Republicans wrap their heads around that, once the pro-life movement wraps its head around that and can talk about it comfortably, then we can move on.
And recognize,
yes, on WBAL yesterday, on Sunday, when I was on Sunday on my Sunday, it's Jerry Rogers. I talked about how in Maryland there is a consensus to have restrictions on abortion post the first trimester, and then allow for exceptions. And I had texters call in saying that I was a hypocrite, that Jerry, I thought you were pro-life. And I said, and I addressed it. I said, I don't understand your mentality, where I want to save as many babies as possible.
This is where we are.
Your way is to save no babies.
The problem is that we are no longer in a position where people can compromise, or able to wrap their heads around compromise, because they've been so spun up by a whole host of people saying, no, we cannot compromise. Any compromise is bad. It's all or nothing.
Stupid.
So listen, before I let you go.
Yes.
Election 2024, because we are starting the countdown today. Will Joe Biden be the Democratic nominee?
No.
I agree.
No, as soon as the Republicans nominate Trump,
yes,
Joe Biden is going to be like that football player who doesn't want to play and says, "Oh, coach, my hamstring. Yes. Take me out."
Yeah.
We'll hear something about his health. The question, let me ask you a question,
please.
So if it's not Joe Biden, who will it be?
It's going to be Wes Moore. I listen, you've been saying this. I agree with you. I'm going to steal your thunder. It's going to be Wes Moore.
I've been talking to some folks that we trust, political, DC insider types. They think it's going to be Newsom and Whitmer. I disagree. I think it's going to be Wes Moore and someone else. What do you think?
It'll be Wes Moore, and I would have said, maybe I'll still say the Democratic governor of New Mexico, whatever her name is.
Yes,
the gun grabber.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
What happens to Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris?
They offer her something special. She and the first gentleman, they ride off into the sunset somewhere.
So
they say, we're going to nominate you to the Supreme Court. In fact, that's exactly what they're going to do. I agree. They're going to offer her a Supreme Court seat.
Or maybe she becomes, Secretary of State.
Yeah.
Kind of builds some policy chops, comes back and runs. I don't know. She's the problem for them. Biden's not the problem. He'll do whatever his masters say. He'll do whatever. Hey, Joe, lift your right foot. He'll do it.
She goes and joins the Obamas. I guess I could have also said it won't be Wes Moore and Michelle Obama. It could be Michelle Obama at the top of the ticket and Wes Moore's her VP.
Michelle is the wild card. I think it could be Wes Moore and they convince Harris to stay on, and then it's hers in 8 years. She's a young, she's a young woman. I don't know. You don't think so?
I think, listen, again, the great thing about that TV show Veep and being so realistic is that, you get to that point, you don't want to be anybody else's second banana. You want to.
Well, again, all right. Do you think she presents a problem for them?
No, because they don't care.
How come?
Because they don't care. The end,
that's
right?
It. I wish I had my dinger.
They don't care. Party uber alles. It's victory uber alles.
You're right.
Oh my goodness. She got them what they wanted in terms of the election. You're good.
You at the head. You have a head for knowing. You're right. That's twice today. You said
thank you.
You're right. But you helped me wrap my head around what 2024 is going to be about. And you're 100% correct.
Maybe.
And you just because here my biggest problem with thinking through who the Democrats run in November 2024, in my mind, up until this moment, it has been, well, what do you do with Harris? You just said it. Yeah. It doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah.
They don't care.
No, absolutely.
This is why you're paid the big bucks.
Which in the end, maybe come January, we should rebrand the show as Thinking Out Loud with Andrew and Jerry.
But that's good. That's good stuff.
Yeah, thanks. Jerry, Sunday. If it's Sunday, it must be Jerry. Plus, you've got a new you don't have a new Business of America.
No, because I got to find an editor. I got to find someone to edit. So, but however, go and look at the Federal News Hour. Check out the Federal News Wire, the Lunch Hour with Andrew Langer. It's really good stuff.
Mark Jaffe this week from the Cato Institute.
And I still have I'm pulling my old stutter here.
Yeah.
On the Federal News Wire, Business of America, there's a podcast right now with the CEO, the president of American Chemistry Council. Good stuff. Right now in your home, everything we have, everything around us, is made or comes from chemistry.
Yeah, I've got something. I helped. I'm going to peel back here. I helped Jerry arrange that interview. I've got to go now and watch and listen to it.
It's really good stuff.
Good stuff.
And check out.
I'm very envious that Jerry did that interview.
Yeah, check out Real Clear Policy. Check out Real Clear Health, and check out the other podcast I do, WBAL. If you can't listen to the show on Sundays, it's podcasted and it's up. Go to WBAL.com podcast Jerry Rogers Show.
Yeah, WBAL Jerry doing very well in the ratings right now. And
it is
no small measure because of Jerry Rogers.
It is the most important Sunday show in America. Go listen.
I agree with that. All right, guys. Jerry, what do you want folks to do?
Oh my goodness. Find the truth. Stand firm. What is it? Find the truth. Plant your feet.
Not your truth.
Plant your feet
and stand firm. Incidentally, I used that the other day on a show, sort of as a closing, and I did credit you with that, Jerry. So I just wanted to let you know.
I've been saying it so long, I just forgot it.
Have a great week, everybody. Have fun, and please stay safe.